My name is Wade the Trucker, and this is my 1998 Mercury Grand Marquis that I bought for $1,300. And in today's video, I'm going to tell you everything you need to know about the Mercury Grand Marquis. To understand the car, we must first understand the brand. In the 1930s, Edsel Ford, son of Henry Ford and current CEO of Ford Motor Company, took particular notice to the price difference between its two brands, Ford and Lincoln. Ford was producing incredibly cheap vehicles that were affordable for the common man. These vehicles were designed specifically to keep costs down so that anybody working for a reasonable wage would be able to buy one. On the contrary, Lincoln Zephyr produced incredibly expensive vehicles that were high in power and luxury and, most of all, cost. To put this into perspective, the 1935 Ford Model 48 was originally sold with a maximum price of $755, which is the equivalent to $17,500 in today's money. In contrast, the 1935 Lincoln Model K was sold for a minimum MSRP of $4,000. And let me check my notes. That was the equivalent to $95,000 in today's money, which sounds absolutely crazy until you realize that is the cheapest Lincoln Model K. The most expensive Model K was being sold for $5,500, or the equivalent of $127,000 today. The difference is literally a Nissan Versa and a Porsche 911. Edsel Ford realized this price gap and said, absolutely not. So in 1938, Edsel Ford founded the Mercury division in order to bridge the gap between Ford and Lincoln. In 1939, Mercury produced its first vehicle, the Mercury Model 8, which sold for $916, or equivalent to $21,000 today. And it was incredibly popular right away, selling 65,800 units. These new Mercury vehicles would take advantage of something called platform sharing, which at that time was incredibly rare. But as soon as you hit the roads today, you're able to see multiple examples of platform sharing. The first one that comes to mind would be the Chrysler 300C next to the Dodge Charger. This platform sharing capability is what helped Mercury bring down the cost of vehicles while also having some semblance of luxury and class. And that is what brings us here today with the car that I've been standing in front of yapping for the last 2 minutes. We've already gone over the idea of platform sharing, and the Mercury Grand Marquis is the perfect example. Originally, the Mercury Marquis, the Grand Marquis as we know it, would come out in 1983, sharing the same Panther platform as the LTD Ford Crown Victoria and Lincoln Town Car. The Grand Marquis shared many parts with its cousins: engine, transmission, interior parts, front end, you name it. The older cars were originally optioned with 5-liter small block Windsor engines, with an optional 351 Windsor. Starting in 1992, Ford used the first mass-produced overhead cam V8, the Ford 4.6. Specifically, the 2-valve engine was widely renowned as being incredibly reliable. The Mercury and its cousins would all use this 2-valve 4.6 until they were all discontinued in 2011. Throughout the years, the Mercury Grand Marquis came in 2 major trims, the Mercury Grand Marquis GS and the LS. Eventually, in 2003, Mercury expanded to the GS Convenience, LS Premium, and LS Ultimate. There are also a few packages that you could add as well. The towing package for older generation cars, the handling and performance package, and for 2001 through 2005, except for 2004 for some reason, you could also get the LSE. The LSE is the Mercury equivalent of the Ford Crown Victoria Sport. The HPP and LSE both gave the car much better suspension, handling characteristics, dual exhaust for more horsepower output, airbag suspension, digital gauge for HPPs specifically, a shorter rear differential with an optional limited slip carrier. You could tell what differential your car has by looking at the door code. C8 is open 273s, Z5 is open 327s, X5 is 327s with limited slip, and although incredibly rare for Mercury Grand Marquis, the C6 axle code is 355s with limited slip. This car, in fact, is actually an HPP packaged car. Now, there is no way to tell if your vehicle is an HPP just by looking at the VIN. You still have the standard M74 or M75, depending on if you had a GS or an LS. The best way to tell if your car is an HPP packaged vehicle is to look for the sign. Basket weave wheels, a rear sway bar, a digital speedometer on older cars, air suspension, dual exhaust, and your axle ratio, which should always be 327 or 355. As you can see here, I have my favorite X5, God's Gears. While the LSE was discontinued in 2005, the HPP lasted until 2008, where across the entire board, all Panther cars had a lot of their unnecessary packages stripped from them. Okay, you guys are going to want to buckle up for this next topic because it's a long one, and looking at this script, I am going to have a stroke reading it all. You know how car companies export their vehicles to different countries? Just an easy way to make money is to sell the same vehicle in a different country. Well, Ford did the exact same thing with their Panther platform cars, but none as important as the Gulf Cooperation Council, GCC, Mercury Grand Marquis. While the Ford Crown Victoria and Lincoln Town Car were also being exported to the Middle East, the Mercury Grand Marquis vastly outsold both of them. To be perfectly honest, a lot of the information that I'm about to give you about the GCC Mercury Grand Marquis is extremely hard to find. And a lot of this information I'm basically getting off of the Grand Marquis' Wikipedia page. So take everything with a grain of salt. In America, the Mercury Grand Marquis always came with single exhaust unless the car was packaged with the HPP or the LSE package. However, the GCC Grand Marquis were incredibly unique, where all standard wheelbase Mercury Grand Marquis all came with dual exhausts. Even until 2002, there was an option to have the car come without catalytic converters. Now let's back up. Now is the time you're going to ask me, well, what do you mean standard wheelbase? The Mercury Grand Marquis only came in one wheelbase. Ladies and gentlemen, let me introduce you to the Mercury Grand Marquis GSL, a long wheelbase version of the Mercury Grand Marquis, sharing the same chassis as the long wheelbase Ford Crown Victoria and Lincoln Town Car, with an added 6 inches of legroom in the back seat. And oh my God, I want it. Packaged as if it was a regular LS, the GSL came with every creature comfort except for power passenger seats and heated seats, which makes complete sense. Why would you want heated seats in the middle of a fucking desert? Unfortunately, the GSLs were never sold in the North American market. They were exclusive to the GCC market, which means that you can't find them here in America. Fortunately, in 2028, 3 years from now, you will be able to import the first year that the GSL was optioned. Another cool package that you could get in the GCC is the Export Handling Package, or EHP, which is pretty much the exact same as the American HPP. Instead of having 327 rear gears, it retained the factory 273 rear gears. This package was an option on every standard wheelbase vehicle. You couldn't get it on the long wheelbase vehicles, but if you ordered a Grand Marquis that was LS or greater, then you would have the EHP package as standard equipment. These EHP cars also came with the Marauder deck-lid spoiler from the years 2003 to the years 2009. But talking about these cars makes me want to drive into a fucking wall because I can't buy them.
Oh look, there's one!
Anyway, enough talking about cool cars that I want, and let's come back to a cool car that I have. While this vehicle has a sporadic misfire, the exhaust is rotted off, and is totally not road legal, I have been able to get some seat time in Mexico. And I've noticed a few things that I don't have in the 3 other Crown Vics that I've owned before this. Let's start with this little emblem on the dash called Performance Track. When I first got this car, I wrongly thought that the Performance Track was a tell to be able to know if a Grand Marquis was an HPP package or not. After the video went up, I got a few comments, I did a little bit of research, and I figured out I was wrong. Performance Track is just fancy marketing lingo, just to say that in 1998, the whole rear suspension was redesigned. Here's something neat you don't get to see on too many cars nowadays. Now, I was driving this car in Mexico, and I wanted to turn into a driveway. Well, it was nighttime, and when I turned the blinker on, when I looked to my left, I saw a bright light. This is called a courtesy light, and it helps geriatric Americans see far into where they're trying to turn into. When I first noticed them, I realized how bright and useful they are, and I got to thinking, why do we not see these on too many cars nowadays? And then I realized that most modern cars have enough LEDs on the front of them to make Stevie Wonder sing "I Saw the Light." And having these courtesy lights on new vehicles would be as useless as on a nut, on a ball, you get the point. While it is good to talk about the history and some cool things about the Mercury Grand Marquis, it's also important to note some of the popular cars that are out driving around today. Cars like Rob the Hoonmerk's 2003, Dale Rosine's 2003, Derek McCottrell's 2003, Love What You Drive's 2006, and hopefully someday my 1998 Mercury Grand Marquis, which will soon be getting a giant turbocharger. Previously, I made a video called Everything You Need to Know to Turbo a Ford Crown Victoria. And this, ladies and gentlemen, is the car that I will be turboing. If you like the Ford Crown Victoria and Panther platform, check out one of these two videos that are probably not above my shoulders. But with that being said, thank you guys so much for watching, and we'll see you next time. Hi, Jack.
Hey, Wayne.
English is fucking hard.